Testing, testing. Yep, that popped up. That's good. Can you hear me fine? Oh, it's actually really responsive. Okay, so yeah, I just had to test which servers were good and which ones were bad. So Twitch this, close that, close that. Here we go. I presume app on your hands, right? You go by Apple everywhere by the looks of it. How am I voice-wise? And that's good to hear. Okay, just get myself comfy. So, task right now is to go. Oh, fuck, glasses. I really wish glasses would just stay clean. It's annoying. Are we getting gaming? What do you mean? Now, the last game I actually streamed was Moss. It actually popped up on the whatchamacallit. It's the last stream info, and Moss is a very interesting virtual reality game. Anyways, I'm gonna add a few markers to the stream just so that we can move around easily enough, especially if I'm working on this later. I plan for these is to upload them to YouTube and probably have a playlist. If this works well, I may do it next semester as well, week by week for different topics. How does that sound for you? And thanks for the followers. And okay, so Dermot gives us this starting point here, which is okay. I'm going to go. Okay, so I'm gonna do two things. I am going to do a packets. I'm gonna showcase hands one that we collected in the last stream. I'm gonna go through that again, but also going to go through a new from scratch how I would implement this. Yeah, so Dermot gave us a starting point. He gave us public class tweet, and then he tells us go do stuff with it. So we're gonna do stuff with it. Copy in there, private there, just confess his appetite. It takes up a lot of room otherwise. All instance variables are private, so they can only be manipulated by the methods in the class. So that's actually a really important thing, and I'll come back to it in a little bit. So first he asks us to add in public tweet, which is this, and in the curly brackets. So this is the constructor, because it has the same name as the class itself. So see this here, same name there. I'm going to go back to hands one here. So gonna space it down a bit so it's roughly the same. That's 20 or so. 20. So they're roughly side by side. So, and apologies for using you as an example of how not to do it, hens. It's just, it's a very good example of how not to do it. So the constructor class is to set up the variables that we are given. So you see these ones here, posted at, tweet text, hashtag count, username count, and posted at. Those currently are nothing. They have no values, and we have to give them values before they can be used anywhere else. A constructor won't be done as in tweet thing equals new tweet blah blah blah. Oh wait, this is 4141, not 221. Ah, the hell. Anyway, so we would use this to initialize, to start up the entire process in our driver program. So this is the very function that we will call. And what we have to do is we have to take text, the variable text of type string, and we've got to initialize these. So the first thing that we have to do is this dot poster by. Okay. So yeah, yours is such a good one. Oh, ouch! That's loud. So this dot poster by. You see, a good IDE, when I do this dot posted, it gives two options. I'm gonna choose the poster by, and I am gonna go with this, which is at. So it has to be, where is it here again? Tweet. Okay. So specifically, the posted by string should be set to the username with an @ symbol preceding it. So it starts with an @ and we have got to add in the username, which thankfully is in hands ones over here. So I can be lazy and just copy that across. So that there sets posted by. Next one down is the tweet text. This dot tweet text equals text, because we want to set the tweet text to be whatever's passed in here. That variable name can be anything. We don't really care at this point. Hashtag count. For the moment, I'm going to set this to 0, and we're going to come back to this in a few minutes once we have the next part, which is actually a bit further down, because we need the count function here to get the hashtag and username counts. And so I'm just going to be lazy, copy this down. You're going to hear be lazy a lot with me. I am a fucking lazy guy. So setting both of those to 0 to start out at, and posted at. This posted at, no, not by, posted at is equal to yes, and as I was saying before, you had a lot of the right things but in the wrong places. So this creates, basically sets up all these variables here. They initially didn't have values, we gave them values, and that's tweet done. The method tweet, that is. So next part is okay, I'm just gonna, for brevity, I'm going to add in all the comments and whatnot here, because I'm probably gonna post this up to GitLab or so, as well as having the video up. Okay, so okay, this is actually really nice to read once you break it down line by line, because it tells you exactly what to do on each line. Didn't notice that before. Yes, Platoon Studio would also be good. Actually, yeah, it's a good enough one. I like IntelliJ because the person who originally mentored me in yeah, so is IntelliJ. The person who mentored me originally with JavaScript years ago, he liked IntelliJ. So of course I end up liking IntelliJ, and now I'm trying to impress that upon everyone else. But the good thing is IntelliJ is free for students. I'm gonna probably pop a link to it later, maybe, not sure. Anyways, so that is the first part, text and blah blah blah. Now where is the second part? Second part is here. It's really blinding when it switches to pure white. Okay, break on the new line, break on the new line. Yeah, that's actually another thing. No, not no, no! I don't convert you yet, Hans. I don't convert you yet. Anyway, this here is actually not a bad thing. We had this big long line of text, and just simply adding line breaks, bringing it to a new line, makes it far more readable. It mirrors the fact that breaking a problem into smaller ones helps immensely. Anyway, what these are termed getters. Oh wait. Getters, as in they get information for you. And what he has told us to do is add a get method for each instant variable. And what he means, these are instance variables, the ones he gave us at the beginning. It's weird, I keep turning to the camera every now and again whenever I'm talking, even though the camera's not rolling. It's my mic, you see. And I can pop up with look at the stream. So each getter, and getters are, these ones are quite simple. All you have to do is get the information and return it. So public, the first one is string get posted by. So get posted by returns a string and takes no inputs. See, smooth brackets, nothing in them. So all you have to do is return this dot posted by. So this refers to the class of tweet, and posted by is inside it. It's here. So if I double click on it here, you see that this gets highlighted lightly. There's you shut up. So when I double click on here, it notices there's the same variable, so it's linking them together, or at least highlighting that they're the same. I'm gonna undo the final because you may or may not want to put that in. I'm rolling back to that in a little bit. Yes! So this is get posted by. Simple thing. It's oh, that's loud. Oh, PSNG. So you can. Any questions, Hassan? Any questions, Hans? Anyone else watching? Grand. So this posted by is the variable that we set here. It's just returning that. And what you're going to have to do is do the same for every other variable. You have you've got to have a getter for all of these. So you should be able to implement that yourself. I'm not going to go through them because they're all the exact same. So that is part 2. Next one is count. I'm going to shift this aside so it doesn't blind you every time I switch to it. Joys of having multiple monitors. So that is the one that he gave us, the start he gave us, and this is the okay. So okay, okay, I'm going back to this. This refers to this variable here. I know I'm saying this a lot. So the variable here, you have to set it in your constructor, which is tweet here, and you set it by doing this dot post, this dot posted by is equal to whatever you set it then, and it's saved there within the class. So for every other method, you can go this dot posted by to get whatever value it is. Does that help a bit? By get, did you mean something like that? Like that? Oh, feck. Like seriously? There we go. Like thing.get with a like that. Because that is a function I think we may have come across. It's not the same. Okay. Yeah, have you watched all of them? Because I kinda stopped watching a little bit, so I'm not quite sure which one it is. Oh, I didn't know you left. Okay. It's this storing the variables here and accessing them is a way to store values and use them across multiple places. Okay, and has got us there. So he may have it. Oh, look, week 9. So yeah, I'm not quite sure which one it is in. It should be there. If you need any more help on that, come back to me. For the moment, I am going to move on. So give us plenty of space so I can actually scroll up and down. Yeah, he is. Although he does put out a lot of videos, they do tend to cover a single topic well enough from what I have seen. So, next part is out. Oh, seriously, ET, these assignment things. Shut up for a moment. So the method returns the number of times the symbol pass as a parameter appears in the text tweet. So we've basically done this the last 2 assignments, assignment 2 and 3. 2 was not so good for most people. 3 we had to put it in the as a method itself, so we can literally copy that over. I'm gonna use Hans one because it will work for this pretty well. I just do have a few things to say about it. Most actually relating about this stuff. So Hans. Oh no, it was just a notification of please submit your assignment, there's 24 hours left. You know the email that always panics you? That one. So latest one, I think 8. Yeah, it's in the emails. It's in your emails. Anyways, back to count. So Hans here had a. I'm gonna just remove from the comments because they're not really needed for this explanation. Yeah. So okay, I'm actually gonna bring this back in and talk about it. So originally Hans had something like this dot next, something like that, I think, but he was getting a bit confused of what was assigning where. And no, the goal of this first one is to introduce you to using the variables that you've got saved in a way that's useful. So we are going to go and tweet text is the name of the variable, and paste it in there and there. So this dot tweet text. So we are accessing this value. We know it's a string. Tweet text is a string. We don't know what's in the string, but we don't really care. All we have to do is process it. And it contains something. So string value of symbol. Symbol is a character, any character. For me, this is actually what I had in my week 2. Is it my assignment 2? And he came back with a. Let me just pull it up. With a big long comment about it because I had. Okay. Because this is what you get when you overachieve sometimes. You get reprimanded for not going far enough. So let me just add a few spaces here. that's a bit more readable. Basically, because we're going to loop through on the characters, there is no point having the contains. And although I did say that it was a good idea at the beginning, I'm just pasting this here. So we're not gonna use that little bit of code because, as Martin Kennedy said, not good, not really efficient, since we're going through it anyway. And this part here, this is not needed as far as we can tell, as far as I can tell. Oh, another one with 12 lab. Which one is that for? That is the that's yeah. Joys of having 2 email clients. They're all inside it. So tweet here, the getter's here, and you see tweet here, everything's in it, and the end of it is down here because it's here. So these methods are within tweet. Does that help you? That's it. If I click on it here, see up in the top left here, it tells me the path to it. So it's in the CS4141 folder, it's in the test folder, it's in the example folder, and then it's tweet and count. So tweet is the class and count is the method. You see that the C and M. So they're all within the tweet class. I know I'm a bit talking on a lot, but so as far as I can tell, this part isn't required. Was required in part 3. Yeah, it's kind of like that, just a different name. So as far as I can tell, we're not filtering for just the hashtag or just the @ symbol. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically, you can copy your My Toonbox exactly and just change the name of it. No, I don't really recommend that because you're gonna have to clean out and clean up. It's probably easier to make a new class for that's just tweet and you copy in the code as required, like I've been doing here so far. So just to clarify, we're then using the this.tweet text length and going through it. We're pass through symbol and we're using that. How is that? So your count, you can basically copy it from the first one. Shouldn't be too long. This is Hans's one and it's perfect. For anyone like Sam who wants to go above and beyond, you can figure out if there's actually a word after it or not, but that's a different matter. Since the question is literally asking how many symbols there are in it. So that's count, down for the count. sorry. Now we have to go back to assignment 4. So so count is done. Now we have to move on to posted at time. That's copied there. Posted at time. What do you mean one spelling? Oh, actually, that reminds me. I actually do have to go back and fix something. Not spelling as far as I know. But you see count? Currently it's unused. Remember what I did earlier? I set hashtag count and username count to 0. Shouldn't be to 0. I need to call count with a hashtag in it. I need to call it again just below it with an @ in it. So that, you see that lit up nicely in yellow saying it's used. So now that finally tweet is fully done there. Tweet the method, that is. Now we have to go on to posted@time. And what was the spelling mistake you said I made? I'm just going to move these inside it just for neatness. Where possible. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, so let's make this readable. Okay, so the method returns a string that contains the post@time. We know that, it's a variable up here, formatted in the style of hours, minutes, seconds. Now there are two. Yeah, okay, I'm going to use hands method for this again since it is good. So I'm going to actually move you up out. I know I just moved you in, don't worry about that. So I'm going to use hands one here. So hands used the don't let it sting you. So hands used the clock one that Dermot himself gave at the very beginning. Now he made one major mistake in it. System current time milliseconds. This will give you the clock for the current time every time you run it. However, we were told to use the posted@time. Thankfully, posted@ is that time, is system current time milliseconds. It's just the time whenever it was originally set. So all we have to do is take this that posted@ and substitute it in for there. Done, dusted. It will then create a string with the format of hours, minutes, seconds, the way that we want it. Now, if you notice, there are grey zeros here. I'm not sure if Hans was back for this. I'll come back to it in a second. Let me know when you're back, Hans. Okay, so there's that. That would be good. We can come back to that in a minute when Hans is back. But as in its current state, it is perfect. Like, you don't really need to do any more changes. There will be a few that I do mention, but we can come back to that in a bit. So that's the posted@time. Time in seconds. I'm gonna use Hans's one again because it's a good teaching example. So this is, well, originally he had it divided by 60 because he mistakenly thought that a millisecond was sorry, a second was comprised of 60 milliseconds. easy to understand. A millisecond, however, is 1,000th of a second. And oh, okay. Sorry, seeing things pop up on the side here on the stream. 1,000th of a second. What he is doing is a neat idea. Math flow will take whatever numbers inside it and reduce it to a single number, which is pretty good because he correctly saw that post that milliseconds, when you divide by 1,000, you're going to get a decimal point. Oh, hi Dermot, long time. Streaming for college classmates how to do a particular thing. Folks, this guy I went to secondary school with. Haven't seen him in ages. He's a mad bastard. Utterly mad bastard. He literally lives in a cabin in the woods. He has a gun vault under the house. And, what else? Yeah, there's axes strewn all around the place and where he is it. So yeah, utterly mad place. Type of place you really don't want to spend Halloween. He's still doing that then, is he? I really must meet up with you sometime. I'm in Ennis these days, if you ever want to meet up. Anyways, your backhands then, that's good. Gonna go back up here. So, actually, where you at yourself, Dermot? Anyway, so if you notice hands, these numbers here are grey. And this means that they're not being used. And you can see why. It's set to 0 there, but that 0 is never used as a value. It's only set here. This is the value that it's set to then, and it's being used further down as that second value. Won't blow over for a while. So what happens if I do long here and delete it up here? Well, it stops complaining, as you would expect. And if I do the same for here and remove this, it stops complaining as well. If I do the same for hours, minutes and seconds, long hour equals removed, minute is long as well, and second is interesting because you don't actually have to convert it to an int here if you say it's an int there beforehand. The conversion only happened because actually you still have to never mind, it's still complaining at me. Int second and set it to there. So yeah, remove the initializations that were not used. Yeah. I don't think COVID will blow over that soon. Send a text if you want to meet up this week or next week before Christmas. Because COVID won't blow over, at least not properly for another year or two anyway, so no point putting it off. So, how's that, hands? Listen, tidy up. It's basically only initializing variables when you need them. You have to wake up sometimes, dear mate. My number is unchanged, so if you still have it, you can send a text. And just in there. Yeah, arg. So it's when you initialize them, you can set it directly. His one was complaining about the values themselves not being used. He had done it this way, but it's kind of understandable. He had wanted to show us that you initialize and then you do the calculations. It was his way of splitting up the code, and it works well as a starter, but as you go further along, you only need to initialize when you need it. Declaring too far in advance is inefficient. Anyway, now that we've done that little detour, let's go back to time in seconds. As I was saying, MathFlow has correctly identified that a number divided by 1000 wouldn't be a decimal. So math.flow was declared. However, because we are casting to integers are positive and negative whole numbers, this entire math.flow not needed. You only need to return post of that divided by that. Oh wait, sorry, one more thing. This dot post to that by 1000. How is that for you, Hassan? Grand. Okay, so next part is time in seconds, the second one of these. Now, you can see it's yelling at me. The highlighted yellows yelling at me. And if I hover over it, it tells me why. Hour is greater than 23 and hours less than 0, that will always be false. He had made a mistake, and yeah, it will always be that. So let's change it up to be what it's supposed to be, an hour, not an end. So change that to R, and see yellow goes away, R and yellow goes away, R and yellow goes away. This function only has two main things to look out for. It's the conditionals here, just to verify that the hours, minutes and seconds are within within the required limits, which is good. And actually, just let me just double check. Yeah, it's this. So yeah, so that's the correct way to front them out. The second part is just turning them all into seconds. So an hour is made up of 3600 seconds, and a minute is 60 seconds, so just multiply those out by their respective values and just sum them all together. Now, as to why there can be two time in seconds in the same function, that is what's called method overloading. So if you call time in seconds with 0 parameters, you see smooth brackets, nothing in them, this first one will be the result you get. If you call it with 3 parameters, 1, 2, 3, this will be the result that you get. I personally, it's not a good way, not a bad way to do it, because you can sometimes make a mistake and put in the wrong amount and get the wrong function as a result. It can be good at times, it can be bad at times, but here it actually is in practice. So here we have a method, two methods, same name, because of a different amount of parameters, they return different things. That is the time in seconds. Now let's move on to the next one, which is the activity tracker. And just to get it to shut up while I'm doing things, I'm just gonna get it to return this, so it's not giving me any errors while I actually work on it. I will fix that in a minute, don't worry. Here I leave a mark it for myself so I can return to it. So if, and sorry for the brightness, so what we want is method returns one of the following values depending on the posted at time. So if to take posted at, we've got, if you look at it, it's only the hours that matter. So we have to figure out how to get the hour out of posted at. So, oh, that sounds familiar. Did we do that before? Somewhere else? Oh, wait, let's go up to this function here, the posted at time. We take posted at, which is milliseconds, and we get an hour value. Oh, that's perfect, right? And I'm just gonna copy, paste, and boom, we have an hour value. And I'm not gonna follow me for that, Hassan. So now we can, now is a pile of if statements to figure out which character to return. So if we go here, and so if the number is greater than 22, and we know this only goes up to 24, we know, yep, that's all I did. We need to know the hour, because have a look at the figures there. You could literally chop off the 000 parts and it would still be the comparison. So it's just getting the useful information that we want into a place where we need it. And since he told us to use the posted at time, we're using that. And what's more, incidentally, we're still using his original clock function to get the same. What do you mean by that, Hans? Because could we have the clock program outside of the method with all the variables? What do you mean outside of the methods with all the variables? Okay, like use this hour. You could technically, if I switch over to my own one up here, let's see, those are Okay. If you have a look at my own one, I'm going a slightly different route. Everyone needs coffee. I'm going a slightly different route where I am. Do you remember how I used to import utility date? Turns out utility date is kind of one that you shouldn't be using anymore. So there's a java.time one. It's built into Java. You just have to call it up. But to make things neat, I added my own variable here. So it's a local time variable, as you can see. So yeah, if you wanted, you could go posted at time and go posted at hours. So if I go and make a new variable up here, posted at hour, and I'm going to set it to oh wait, okay. So let's think this through. When you call the activity indicator, there's no guarantee that posted at time was called beforehand. The only way it could really work is that if you're guaranteed that posted at time with its hour here would be called before this to have our saved up here. Realistically, that's not going to happen, or rather you cannot guarantee that will happen. So no, the simplest way would be to copy the code like this and get our virtually the exact same way as above. It is duplication, but you don't rely on any other method to get the data, if that makes sense for you. Does it? That good for your hands? Okay, that's good. So, yeah. Okay, let's go back to the spec. So, now that we have the hour, which is the number at the very beginning, we now know that if it is greater than 22, it is night. So we now have a series of if statements. If hour is greater than 22, we can return early. So return in. So return in. I'm just going to copy and paste this down because I can't be asked to type it out a couple more times. And oh, you see? So see here? This is the second one. This is the second one. Now the thing about returning early, we can't see. What can't you see? Okay. The thing about returning early is it stops the function here. The function ends here. So this one here is telling me condition hours greater than 22 will always be false. The reason why is because if it is greater than 22, it will end here and it will never get down to here. But we can use that. So if let's go back to here. So if we look at this row here, because if the time is greater than 17 but less than 22, it's evening, it's E. So just 17 in here and return E. And this basically means that when hour gets to here, it's guaranteed to be less than 22, and now we're checking if it's greater than 17, so we just siphon it off as we need it. The next one down again is anything greater than 12 is 17, is anywhere between 12 and 17 is A, afternoon probably. So we go and pop 12 into this and we call that A. And the final time, which is anywhere between 6 AM and 12 midday, is M, morning. So anything greater than 6 is morning. So now when we finally get to here, if hour still gets past all of that, then hour must be less than 6. And now see here, this very first one, if hour is less than 6, it's night. So we fill in the final one. If all else fails, that is night. And with that, we have our activity indicator done. And that is another marker done. Let's see how useful it is later. So that's the activity marker. Any questions on that? Let me just open up. Grand. Hans, any questions yourself for any of the other 3 viewers? Yeah. If anyone else wants to ask anything in particular, you do have to type it. I'm not clairvoyant. Yet. Ounce return N. No. Because you see, if it passes by that, so if the ounce here essentially is implicit ounce, it's basically saying anything after this is else, because I am breaking it up there. If I wanted to be really explicit, I could take these and go ounce blah, and if I take these blah, and if I take this blah, and of course the final ounce return there. So that there is if how you do it with nestling, but that's a pain in the ass to read. Figuring out what happens when is not easy. So the easiest way is the implicit. Okay, you back and back down there. So by the time, if I did a system.out.print line hour, so if I did system.out.print line hour, it would always be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 5. because we are guaranteed that it's less than 6. Sorry, it's less than 7. It's 6 or below, if you get what I mean. So this value here is 6 or below. Does that help you? Grand. Now, there are 2 functions left. This is the one I expect bzz, 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 bzz. One I expect that most people have issues with. You have to take a word and you have to check if tweet text, whichever, let me compress this down. You've got to check what tweet text contains it. So the first way that you would think of is this dot tweet text dot contains a word. So this would be the first thing you would think of, checking if tweet text contains it. Yeah, you would be. However, he has thrown a puzzle into the mix. He told us that the word, while contains won't tell us if it's somewhere in the string, it won't tell us if it's part of a word itself. So we have to, the examples he gave are work and if we did contains on working, we would find work, but it is part of a bigger word. So what we've got to do is to, and I'm gonna use Sebastian's method for this. So false. So we want to check if there is a space before or after the word. There are 2 conditions we need. A is the start of the string, and there's a space, or there's a space before. Or secondly, it's the end of the string, and there's a space before it. So what we can do is string array equals this dot tweet text dot let's see. This will split tweet text into an array of words. It's splitting them at an empty space, and this means that if we loop through the array, Hans has a slightly different one, I think. Yeah, you can see it here somewhat. But if you split it up at the spaces, it will like so this is an example, would be the example I chose. If I was to split it up, it would be this is and comma. Example. And so we can just loop through for int I equals 0, I is less than length I plus plus. So we want to check each word on its own. And so first we need to check, is it the same word? If words I is equal a word, see, almost forgot about this one up here, a word, ooh, this is interesting. String values are compared using not equals. Basically, I fucked up here. So IDE does one of those things. And for context, I am going to put in the under one here that I got wrong. So it is going to check if word, the current word, whichever one it is equal to a word. So that's the first check. Now we need to keep a variable to keep track of it, or we can return early. I'd be much in favor of returning early in this case. So this will work pretty perfectly. So if they're the same, return true. So if they match, oh, you shut up for the moment. They don't need to learn that. So if the word matches, it will return true, else it will return false. Anyone else? Any questions on that? Sure. You know, there's a store called Applebee's. Yeah. So, can you understand that, Hans and Jake? The B&B. Oh, okay. You can watch the recording anyway. If you've got any questions, you know exactly where to find me. So that contains word. It's not perfect, but that should actually cover most cases. And you see here, it's telling me that I can. It's not. No, we don't really get them in Ireland. Too cold for them. Yeah, if it's too cold for you, it's too cold for them. See here, it's highlighted and it's telling me I can replace it with an enhanced for. Okay. Basically, in essence, I'm taking this dot tweet, I'm taking an axe to it, and every time there's a space. Say if the tweet was this here, it would then split it into something like this. it's something you can go and loop through fairly easily. And basically it compares the words, whichever one it's on, so it will start with this one here, and then I plus 1 will bring you here, and next one be here, next one there, and it compares that to a word, which is our original one that we're searching for. And if they're equal, return true. I actually am curious what it will replace it for. Yeah, we keep that. So, does that make a bit more sense for both of you then? Run the code at the end. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. For the moment we have to actually write the code. Then we can actually run it. So that is a bit different from my own one, but this is a solution that Sebastian posted in the chat a few days ago. It will work well for almost every case that you want it to. It's not perfect, but it will work well. The main reason why it wouldn't be perfect is this here, because it's only going to separate on absolute spaces. It's not going to separate on tabs, it's not going to separate on new lines. It's in that way, it doesn't cover every situation, but for the moment it's good enough. And that's really what we're looking for at the moment. It can cover 99% of cases that he tests against. Anyway, so this is the final function before we get to the program that runs it. So display, add a marker there. So display has got two inputs. One is with, the other is include header. Now I am gonna copy directly from the part 3 toolbox. So we need the header and we need the splitter. Yeah, I put a lot of comments in my actual code, so no, not this one. Yeah, so private static split tweet, and I'm gonna rip it from the other one, which is the header. I really wonder what you think of your header, Hussein, because as I was saying before, I do think it was one of the most inventive ones. Okay, so most of this you don't have to look at because you all have your own ways of doing it, so won't really deal with that. There will be a few changes to it though. So before I go and do the display, I'm gonna modify the existing code that I copied from myself from the previous assignment. So let's start with the split tweet. So split tweet is expecting two inputs. For one of them no longer exists. So I'm going to remove that, and you see for me it highlighted red. We have to replace those with this .tweet text, which is where we're coming from. So you can probably begin to see why stuff like this dot whatever variable name is useful. You can use it multiple places without needing to pass it back and forth as parameters. It has a distinctive use, so that's the first thing. With naming function, it doesn't really matter what that's named because it's one of our own functions. So, but there are limitations. There are four values that we have never touched, and he gives instructions about them. So, where's the stuff about the header? Oh, it's right. Out. So, if a header is included, it should be at least minimum header width. So we're going to use that, and so if it is less than minimum header width, we are going to set it to minimum header width. And second part is the header should be displayed using the same width as a tweet text display. There is a slight conflict here, but we can get to that in a few minutes. It also has a maximum display width. So I'm going to just substitute those in. So minimum header width, don't really need to care about what number it is, only that it exists. And maximum display width, they're both used in the splitting. Oh wait, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Minimum display width is here. So your splitting function that we had last time, those are using the minimum and maximum display width. Is that okay for you? So in conclusion, we're using references to the tweet, and we're using, oh for fuck's sake, this dot. You do have to add in this dot. It may work without it, but it is far better to include it. So yeah, so using those values. Is that okay for you too? Oh, more viewing. Hello folks. Silence means I'm just gonna go on. Okay, so this part here, remember last time if it was less or equal to 0, return nothing. We're not gonna do that because of a few different reasons. So the header has to be minimum header width. So we're going to set that to that. This dot minimum header width, and we're going to set it to minimum header width. So it's less than that, we set it to that. the other one is this dot, same as the display. So we're setting these variables to setting width to be whatever those variables are. We don't need to know the values of them, only that they exist and we've got to use them. And then that's basically the same function as we did for the header last time. So now the point where we add them together is here in the display function. And so if include header is true, if include header, do that. The reason why we don't go equals true is that it already is a boolean. It already is true or false. So if include header, we do something, and that something is simply tweet header. Tweet header with width in it. You pass width to it, it tunes with it however it wants. But regardless of whether that's true or not, this part will always run. So it's see here what I've actually got done. String tweet split is returning a string. What if I change that to void to make it like the other one? So tweet split will handle the printing out of that. So it returns nothing. Because these are our own created functions, we can do with them whatever we want. In this case, I just wanted to print out the result of splitting the tweet. And so display is a very simple function. It's only calling other functions to do their bits. And these have no need to be public, so they're both private. How are you keeping up? Hassan, how are you doing? In what case? Which code? Tweet header is like the other things, it's a method inside tweet. So you can literally do it for tweet header display. So display is within tweet, same as all the other methods. The splitting one is within tweet. The tweet header is within tweet. And all display does is it calls the other two headers to do stuff. You can place them above or below in the ordering. Like you can place them above, there may be no issue. You can place them below, there may be no issue. Just as long as they're within the same class of tweet. We're probably going to more stuff between classes next semester, possibly. But for the moment, it's all in one class. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's good. Hey, let's get. How are you keeping? So that is the main part module, the tweet class completely done. Now we have to go on to the testing part. So BlueJ has one way of doing it. Every other one is roughly the same, and we need to name it test tweet class. So I'm gonna new to have a class, tweet class, and so test tweet class. I am going to borrow some stuff from my own stuff. Yeah, stuff. So this is, I'm for testing in my own one, I'm using one tweet, which is here, and I'm just printing off the testing out the methods. I use every single method. Oh, look away. I use every single method in it to just show that it works. Let's see, this will probably be faster just to show you it. So in the main function, main runs, I'm gonna copy and paste. So the main function will run whenever you run the class. And okay, I do not need you to do that. I need you to do tweet. So you shut up. Come on. Stop giving me the underlines. Yes, you can. Just stop. So it's just not listening to me a bit, so example, what more do you want? Come on. Yep. One second. I'm just gonna restart the IDE. I didn't like me copying code that way. Hi. Yeah. Oh, wait. Test week class. Why won't you work? Oh, yeah. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, so the reason why this is red is because guess what I forgot to do? I only have, no, not that one. Yeah, I talk to myself a lot when I'm doing stuff. It is not a sign of madness. So I told you to do your own get methods here. I haven't got them done. So these are going to be reds. That can be fixed by Control C, Control V. If and there. And this. So yeah, I implemented the final getters, and I'm gonna just clear out on the extra functions I added. So yeah, now we're working. Sorry about that. So back on track. Add a marker there. So the idea of it is the type is tweet because the class is tweet, and I'm calling it the tweet. The string I'm passing in, that is the tweet in quotes, is this one here. Glad to have a break from you. Well, it's hard work. CS4141 ceases. We'll be back again in February where we'll still learn more about Edgar W. Dijkstra. Yeah, a nice example in tweet because we have a username, we've got a hashtag, and we have several words in it. So what we're going to do, what I did actually, is printing out line by line, going through every single function that we created. So if you look at it, get tweet text is here, this function here. Hashtag count is here. Get user count is there, and so on, so on. So when I print it, when I actually run this, as you would in your testing, this is very much like the test my tune box that you had last time. So if I run it, it's very nice and IntelliJ. It's just click the green button and it goes, ooh, okay, you shut up, hands one. Okay, it should be better. Because everything is linked in together. If you make a mistake in one file, it spits out an error. Okay, that's another thing. So see here, when I call the tweet is now an object that's of type tweet. So the tweet is of type tweet. Now, do you remember on the methods that we had? Because they're methods, they're called on the tweet, which is here. And it does whatever's in that method. This is why you organize things together. Like, do you remember before we were doing dot contains? Whatever the string was, dot contains blah blah blah. Or dot length. So the length of a string, that is a method. We're calling them on the whatever the string is in that case. Like if I go, this is a test dot length, will tell me how long that string is. So this is why classes and methods are really useful to do, because they can do a heck of a lot. So when I run it, it prints off everything. So if I go up to the top, it prints off the tweet, the hashtags, the users, posted by and posted at, because that's what I got here. I'm telling it to print it. Length, smooth brackets is the text one. without the smooth brackets is something like an array. Because on a string, length is a method. On an array, the length of it is a variable, essentially. So on a string, on an array, the length of it would be one of these, essentially. Yeah. So anyways, so the way I've organized my testing is I use every single method created. I give it and just print them all out. I have, so do you know the contains word one? I have it checking if it contains Dijkstra, and yes, it should contain Dijkstra. I have it checking if it contains Jedward, and no, it does not contain Jedward, because remember this is the tweet up here. And I'm checking if it contains its, and yes, that should be there because its is there, but it should not contain it, because it is only there as a portion of its. It's not its own separate word. So I'm just showing how that particular method works. For the displays, because display is where there's going to be a lot of variance, I'm passing in different values for close enough, yeah. Though they probably have a bit more advanced than that. For display, because there are essentially 4 different lengths widths that you can put in, I'm giving an example of each one. So if I scroll down here in the terminal, you can see contains Dijkstra, true, contains Jedward, false, it's true, it, false. And if I scroll down further again, we come to this first tweet display. I'm passing it a value of 0, but it's autocorrecting the header to a minimum of 10, because that is the minimum header width is 10, so we'll set it to that. The minimum display width is 1, so the tweet will go 1 character on each line until it's complete. So that's a really long boy. So that's just showing what happens if it's less than 1 or less. The second one is what happens if it's less than 10, which means it's shorter but still there. Next one is if it's 11, and it just the header goes on an extra 1, everything else goes on an extra 1. And the final one is what happens if it's greater than 80, and it gets normalized to 80, and we see it across 2 lines. And the final test is what happens if its include header is false. And so here's a tweet without any header, and thus every method has been tested, some of them multiple times, and that should do pretty well. It's not testing multiple tweets, but it is testing one very well. I'm not sure if he'll mark me down for only testing one, but I'm showing that I can use every method, if that makes sense. Hans, how's that for you? Or anyone else in chat, for that matter? I know there's 5 of you, at least it's listed as 5. I'm not sure if I'm included in that. Yeah, I'm saving this on Twitch and I'm probably upload it on YouTube as well. I'll add markers on the YouTube one just to say, you know how it can break up the video. Damn, this is 2 hours. Okay, any further questions? Because I think I should round up. I may not do this every day, but I should definitely be able to get at least one a week. Okay, if nobody else has any questions, I am going to knock it off. And I know it's kind of boring listening to me without music or whatnot, but music is a tricky issue on Twitch and whatnot. Right, I am off. See you then.